The air was thick with the scent of magnolia and warm asphalt as Otellan stood outside the brick colonial house in Raleigh, North Carolina, her hand hovering over the polished brass doorknob. From inside, laughter spilled out, sharp and bright, mingling with the clink of champagne flutes. Her mother's text had been curt, almost clinical. Family dinner at 7. Don't be late. No warmth, no context, just an order. But it was Mom, so Otellan, now 29, had thrown on a navy blazer over her jeans, tied her chestnut hair into a messy bun, and driven the half-hour from her modest apartment in South Durham to the house she'd once called home. She was still chasing something, maybe not approval, but at least acknowledgement. The house glowed under the September dusk, its windows casting golden rectangles across the manicured lawn. Cars lined the driveway, a sleek Tesla, a polished Lexus, an Audi with a vanity plate. A party, not a dinner. Otellan's stomach tightened as she stepped inside, her boots clicking softly on the hardwood. The dining room was a spectacle, white linen napkins folded like origami, a crystal chandelier glinting above a table set for a magazine shoot. A centerpiece of white roses and eucalyptus blocked half the view. No one noticed her arrival. She stood by the archway, clutching her leather crossbody bag, still in her jacket, as the room buzzed with chatter. Her father, Richard, stood at the head of the table, his voice booming like a southern preacher at a revival. "We're just so damn proud of the legacy Charlotte's building," he said, raising his glass. "She's everything we hoped our daughter would be." The room erupted in applause. Someone whistled. Charlotte, 32, radiant in a tailored emerald dress, her blonde curls catching the light, smiled like she'd rehearsed it. Otellan's mother, Evelyn, leaned over, brushing a speck off Charlotte's shoulder, whispering something that made her laugh. Otellan stood frozen, her name unspoken, her presence a ghost's. She slid into a chair at the table's far end, near the French doors to the patio, nodding at an aunt who offered a thin, polite smile. The toasts came, 2 of them, each for Charlotte's latest promotion at her Atlanta-based marketing firm. A slideshow flickered on a screen, Charlotte in her college cap and gown, Charlotte shaking hands with a senator in D.C., Charlotte at a conference, all sharp blazers and perfect teeth. Otellan searched the images for herself, for the photo that once hung in the hallway, her at 18, grinning beside her beat-up Chevy at the Raleigh Auto Expo, a wrench in hand, gone, replaced by a framed Forbes article about Charlotte's meteoric rise. Otellan's throat burned. She excused herself early, mumbling about an early shift. A lie only half true. She still took freelance upholstery gigs to fund her side hustle. As she left, Richard patted her shoulder absently. "Lock the door on your way out," he said, like she was a guest who'd overstayed. 2 days later, Otellan returned, not for another dinner but to share something real. She stood in the kitchen, clutching a manila folder, her palms sweaty but her voice steady. Evelyn sat at the breakfast nook, scrolling her iPad. Richard sipped coffee over the Wall Street Journal. "I've been working on something," Otellan began, her heart thumping. "Smart textiles for car interiors. I filed an LLC. I've got a prototype, and I'm applying for a grant from the Durham Small Business Fund." She laid out her vision: pressure-sensitive seat covers, tech-infused fabrics to make long drives more comfortable. The future, built with her hands. Silence. Then Evelyn chuckled, a sound that cut deeper than words. "Oh, honey, you're serious about this?" Richard didn't look up. "This is what you've been wasting your time on?" Otellan's mouth went dry, but she pressed on. "It's real. I've been studying non-stop, coding, textiles, ergonomics. People need this." Evelyn waved a manicured hand. "Otellan, darling, we expected you to aim for something respectable. Respectable, like Charlotte, crafting ad campaigns for energy drinks and luxury skincare." While Otellan was stitching sensors into truck seats at 2 a.m., fueled by YouTube tutorials and black coffee, she stayed, asking what they thought she could improve, how to refine her pitch. Richard folded his paper, his sigh heavy. "If you go through with this, don't come crawling back when it fails. We've already got one daughter we're proud of." The words landed like a slap. Otelin left without another word. The folder still in her hands. Outside, the air smelled of pine and cooling pavement. She climbed into her pickup, gripping the cracked leather steering wheel until her knuckles whitened. The house stood silent behind her. No one followed. On the passenger seat, her prototype, a stitched panel embedded with sensors. 3 months of sleepless nights, sat untouched. They hadn't even asked to see it. That night, something shifted. Otelin wasn't just hurt, she was done begging for a seat at their table. She didn't know it yet, but she was already becoming someone they'd later claim to have always known. 7 years later, at 36, Otelin was no longer the overlooked daughter. Her company, built from grit and late-night hustle, was a rising star in North Carolina's tech scene. Her smart textiles were in commercial fleets across 4 states. Her face on the cover of Entrepreneur with the headline, "From Disowned to Design Powerhouse." Her office in downtown Raleigh gleamed with white oak paneling and warm LEDs. A far cry from the borrowed van where she'd once sewn prototypes. Then, out of nowhere, a text from Evelyn. "Would love to see you. Sweetheart, family dinner Sunday?" As if the silence of 7 years had been a glitch. Not a choice. Otelin stared at the message for 2 days before replying with a single word. "Sure." The house had changed when she pulled up. The creamy exterior was now slate gray with black shutters. Cold and unfamiliar. The dogwood tree in the front yard had grown wild, its branches casting jagged shadows across the porch. Inside, Evelyn's hug felt rehearsed, like a handshake in disguise. Richard nodded, like she was a coworker dropping off a report. The air smelled of new carpet and lemon polish. But what caught Otelin was the hallway wall. Once a collage of family memories, birthdays, beach trips, her standing proud by her Chevy, now it was a shrine to Charlotte. White frames, crisp photos, Charlotte in a blazer, Charlotte with colleagues, Charlotte laughing at a podium. Otelin's photo was gone, the walls faded square a scar where her memory had been erased. Dinner was stiff, a performance of civility, overcooked salmon, quinoa, kale salad, Evelyn's new health kick. Richard droned about property taxes. Otelin nodded, smiled when expected, her phone buzzing with a reminder from her assistant about a design review. She left early again, Richard's "drive safe" trailing her like an afterthought. But the real blow came at another dinner. Weeks later, in a neutral restaurant on 9th Street, Evelyn and Richard sat across from her. Their smiles practiced. They asked about her company, her new office, her team, their voices dripping with a newfound respect. Then Evelyn's tone softened, calculated. "Charlotte's been struggling, honey. Her firm downsized 4 months ago. She's trying, but the market's brutal. Your company's doing so well, maybe you could help her get back on her feet?" Otelin set her fork down, her hand steady. The photo wall flashed in her mind, every frame, every erasure. They hadn't called her in 7 years. Hadn't acknowledged her work, her struggle, her survival. Now, with Charlotte jobless, they saw Otelin not as their daughter but as a resource. She looked at Evelyn, then Richard, her voice calm but unyielding. "I'll think about it." But she already knew. They only remembered her when she had something they could use. The Raleigh skyline shimmered under a late October moon, its glass towers reflecting ambition and secrets. Otelin, now 36, stood in her sleek office, the glow of warm LEDs illuminating the white oak walls. Her company, a beacon in North Carolina's tech scene, had just landed a contract to outfit a fleet of long-haul trucks with her smart textile seats. Her face had graced Entrepreneur magazine, her name on patents, her legacy undeniable. Yet, as she sipped oat milk latte from a ceramic mug, her phone buzzed with a notification that would unravel everything, a video. Posted by her sister, Charlotte, 32, with a thumbnail that stopped Otelin's breath. Charlotte's tear-streaked face, soft lit, stared out, the caption screaming, "When helping family means losing them." Otelin clicked play, her pulse quickening. Charlotte's voice trembled, calculated. "I never thought I'd have to say this publicly," she began, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. "Years ago, when my little sister was lost, I gave her my sketches, my notes, my time. I never asked for anything back. But success changes people. She erased me. The video cut to scans of crude sketches, Otelin's sketches. From a moleskin notebook Charlotte had borrowed 6 years ago during a lunch in Durham. Never returned. Now, those sketches were props in Charlotte's sob story. Weaponized to paint Otelin as a thief. Comments flooded in, venomous and swift. She climbed on her sister's back and acts like she's self-made. Money doesn't buy integrity. The real CEO got robbed. Otelin's hand tightened around her mug. The baby inside her kicked. Sharp and grounding. As she braced against the kitchen counter. Charlotte hadn't just lied, she'd rewritten Otelin's life. The betrayal wasn't new, but its public staging was. Weeks earlier, at the Triangle Design Gala, Otelin had sat stunned as Charlotte's name was called for the 2024 Creative Leadership Award, an award Otelin's company had sponsored. An award her team had shaped. Charlotte, in a cream silk dress, had strode to the stage, heels clicking, accepting the plaque with a speech that twisted the knife. My sister's always been an inspiration. The room had hesitated, confused. Otelin's name was on the program as a sponsor, not a nominee. Her designs had furnished the venue. Yet Charlotte stood there, claiming Otelin's light. Otelin had driven home in silence. Her husband, Marcus, glancing over but saying little. You want to talk? He'd asked at a stoplight. No, she'd replied, her voice a closed door. Now, with Charlotte's video trending, Otelin didn't scream or cry. She opened her laptop, navigated to a folder labeled Proof, and began compiling. Years of discipline had taught her to document everything. Timestamped emails to suppliers. Receipts for fabric rolls. Video clips of her sewing in a borrowed van. A 2018 podcast where Charlotte, laughing at a networking brunch, called Otelin's work, that cute car seat thing. The kicker was a contributor agreement, signed by Charlotte 6 years ago, when she'd briefly feigned interest in Otelin's startup. The document, witnessed and dated, stated Charlotte waived all claims to Otelin's designs. Intellectual property, her company. Otelin forwarded it to her attorney, Monica, with one word, bulletproof. By Thursday, Otelin's response was ready. No theatrics, no tears. Her video, titled The Real Timeline, opened with raw footage, her hands stitching a prototype under a flickering garage bulb. Spreadsheets tracking expenses, patent filings with her name. Charlotte's podcast clip played, her dismissive laugh echoing. The contributor agreement appeared, highlighted, undeniable. Otelin's voiceover was calm, measured. Not everything behind closed doors stays silent. If they want a story, here's the full one. The video closed with a single line on a black screen. Truth doesn't shout. It waits. She hit publish, closed her laptop, and walked away, leaving the internet to do its work. The fallout was instant. Texts flooded her phone, cousins, uncles, old friends. A message from her cousin Jenna. Saw your video. You were right. An uncle. I'm sorry we didn't ask questions. The family group chat, dormant for a year, exploded with arguments. Some defended Charlotte, others called her out. Evelyn and Richard stayed silent. Charlotte posted again, her eyes red but dry. I never read what I signed. I was just being a supportive sister. No apology, just a plea for sympathy. The internet split. Some called her manipulative. Others branded Otelin cold. A local columnist mused. Sister versus sister. Who owns legacy in the age of ambition? Otelin turned off notifications. Some wars weren't worth fighting. Weeks later, at her baby shower in a cozy Durham bookstore cafe, the air thick with cinnamon and warmth, Otelin was opening a gift of swaddle blankets when the door chimed. Charlotte stood there, holding a giraffe-patterned gift bag, with Evelyn and Richard behind her. The room froze. Otelin's best friend, Raina, looked to her for a signal. But Otelin's face was stone. Evelyn approached, kissing her cheek like it was Christmas. We're here to make peace, she said. Charlotte held out the gift. Just something for the baby. Otelin didn't take it. Her voice cut through the silence. Steady as steel. I'd like my family to leave. You've made your feelings clear. My child won't inherit shame disguised as love. Raina stepped up, her voice sharp. You heard her. Evelyn blinked, stunned. Charlotte hesitated, then followed their parents out. The door closed, and the room exhaled. At her company's product launch, Otellan took the stage in a renovated Raleigh mill, her 7-month pregnant frame commanding the room. The crowd, press, investors, young designers, watched as she spoke. Her voice low but resonant. People ask why I started this company. It wasn't strategy. It was rejection. She pulled a worn card from her pocket. Her grandfather's words from her 16th birthday. I believe in you. Not someday. Today. She clicked a remote, unveiling a mural, not of her face, but of her journey. Sketches. Receipts. Emails. Timestamps. This isn't just my work, she said. It's what I remember. To anyone forgotten by their own. You can still build something unforgettable. The applause was thunderous. But Otellan didn't bow. She stood, seen at last. That night, her phone lit up with a voicemail from Richard. His voice raspy. We didn't know you kept that note. Silence. Then a beep. Otellan whispered to the empty kitchen. But I did. And I kept more. Days later, an email from Charlotte arrived. No subject line. I'm not ready to say sorry. But I understand why you left. Otellan didn't reply. Some doors close quietly, permanently. In her home office, dusk painting the walls gold. Otellan wrote a letter she'd never send. You thought I'd crawl back. I didn't. I moved forward. You taught me silence is louder than disappointment. She folded it, filed it under no longer needed, and closed the drawer. Marcus brought her rooibos tea, his hand warm on her back. Strangers' emails poured in. My family erased me. Too. Your story gave me hope. The baby kicked, and Otellan smiled, whispering, You'll never have to earn your place. Above the nursery crib, beside her grandfather's card, she placed a new note. You were born belonging. Some names fade from family walls. Others become foundations.